It is Thursday night. It is 8 p.m. It is your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast, and it is days removed from WrestleMania, the Raw after Mania, a sale possibly happening, and the sky beginning to fall, according to anyone you talk to online. Folks, buckle in. We got a big night ahead. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt.
Hello again, everybody. It's season 3, episode 10 of your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. Welcome to the show. Will here tonight with 2 James, fresh back from his adventures, we should say, to WrestleMania. We're going to have a lot to cover tonight because my man was on the ground. I was watching at home. So we've seen it from different perspectives. And Lord knows it's been a week. So we're only the 2 of us tonight. A lot of the guys are busy. Spring break and that kind of stuff going on as we head into April. But we are here to run down the Showcase of the Immortals and everything else that's going on, including a whole lot of big business happening in the wrestling world. So we'll talk about that more in the second half. But we're going to start, I think, right at the top. Yeah. Because Lord knows, WrestleMania, 2 nights, a whole lot going on. But people are talking about all kinds of stuff when it comes to WrestleMania. But I think the first thing you got to tackle right out of the gate is the main event. The main event probably has the most people talking, a whole lot of, people upset, a whole lot of people gloom and doom and what the hell's going on for all kinds of different reasons. But right out of the gate, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania. Was the American Nightmare ruined by not defeating Roman Reigns? And before I even jump in, since you were there, because I've seen some interesting videos on online of the moment the pin count happened and how it was received in the building. But you were there, so I'm curious. The main event, the whole scene in the building. Before we even talk about the broadcast, too, James, since you were there as press for Big Gold Belt Media, how is it? How did this go down in the building, live and in person?
There's a lot of shout outs I want to give too. So we'll talk about the main event, but I did overall the weekend in terms of just the wrestling community, the WWE fan base, I should say WWE universe, WWE staff, the superstars up and down the board was such an amazing time. But the main event, which I watched very closely. I was sitting one next to my cousin, who also in contributing and helping alongside for Big Gold Belt Media. Shout out to my cousin Trent Dees, probably watching and listening right now. And then to the other side of me was Alex, Queen of the Ring, who I have been a fan of her work for a very long time, and finally getting a chance to meet her was just a very pleasant time, from just the sidebar and kind of tapping into her knowledge and her perspective on things was very enlightening. We got to get her on the show very soon. But here's where I stood. I was absolutely all the way team Cody Rhodes, and I loved watching a pay-per-view with that group of folks I did, because it was different, and there was definitely some folks who were super sophisticated and mature about it. Then there actually was some hardcore fans, even in media, that were just like Tribal Chief this or Cody Rhodes that and whatnot. But ultimately we watched in the press box. So and I know for a fact that, you know, the night one I went down for the main event for the tag match because I wanted to experience that in the crowd. But I had my reservations about experiencing the main event in the crowd because I was like, oh, this could get crazy. But I will say this. I was team Cody Rhodes all the way, and I was absolutely devastated. I even think I don't want to speak for her, but I almost want to say Alex was also kind of baffled, like, wow, like Cody lost. But she and I want to give her credit on two things. One thing I tweeted is that, listen, when that main event went off, like I'm sorry, when that main event came on, or so I say when the entrances came on, our press box was bouncing. That stadium was hot. Folks were in for this. And then the second thing she said was like, hey, take a look into the crowd, like right below us. So kind of had to like come really close to the glass to kind of look right over. Oh, there was tons of Roman fans, and they might have not been cheering, but they had those ones up. There was a hardcore presence for Roman in there. So regardless of folks being very vocal about Cody not losing, the loyalists of the tribal chief was in the building. They just weren't talking. And I love that. I love that swag because much like Roman, they're just like, I came, I conquered, I smashed, and I'm out. I don't need to make a big hurrah here. And the folks had their ones up. And I will say, like, I've been in sporting events. If you ever been to a NBA playoff game where the home team loses, oh, it is completely act the devil. You would think somebody have died, but
right, air just gets sucked out of the room.
Yeah, exactly. For this, there was, I think, a very healthy divide of folks like, oh man, Cody didn't get it. Predictions of what's going to happen with Cody. But folks saying like, listen, acknowledge the tribal chief. He's the man, and folks are completely happy and were confident about their predictions there. So I think everybody went home to some extent satisfied with what happened overall for the card. But I definitely think people were looking for that Cinderella Disney ending with Cody that I actually was too, until I sat back and thought about it for a while. And I want to go right into that. And I'll give it back to you in a second. But as much as I wanted Cody to win, the more and more logical I started to think about this and took my heart out of it, it made no sense for him to win. There's a lot of reasons why it didn't make any sense. The first thing is there may be another wrestler for a very long time to get 1,000 days. So why not just go ahead and knock that accolade out for him? Why not give him that stamp of approval of reaching that milestone of 1,000 days? Cody can get the championship at any given time, and it will be just as satisfying. The build may not be everything that we wanted it to be right now, but like the hard times era that we're about to go with Cody Rhodes, oh, you can get behind that, because once you start talking about that, you actually start to tap into a lot of the reasons why people got behind Drew McIntyre. And people should have got behind Jinder Mahal because it's the same story, but it's the folks who kept getting put back, ultimately released to come back and be stronger, and to become the champion and became ultimate faces of the company. It should have been Jinder, but of course, y'all won't see the differences there. But it's literally the same story. You can easily do that with Cody. But beyond, I don't want to talk too much about that. Then the other thing is, well, if Cody would have won, what happens to Solo Sikoa? That was my thing. You let Cody win, and then the bloodlines completely disintegrated. Solo absolutely would have had nothing to do going forward. And you didn't want to establishing that the bloodline elevated everybody around. Cody wins. There's nothing for Solo. I couldn't think of anything that made sense besides like, oh, give him a solo run. He has endless momentum. You're making him basically start from the beginning. He might as well have just been called up from NXT the next day if that's what you just thought was going to make sense. But having him still closely aligned with the tribal chief, having him start to open his shell a little bit, start to gain more of a personality outside of the enforcer, start to have him to make his own decisions, much like Jay and Jimmy had to kind of do. Give Solo that time too, while Roman gets to his 1,000 days. I think makes a beneficial thing for everybody around. So, my heart was in for Cody, but now that I started thinking about it logically, I thought, like, Cody's going to be okay. Cody's going to be okay. And the audience, while they were mildly devastated, about time we got out of the stadium, everybody was okay. Everybody, I think, was okay. The internet is a weird place because when you're at a live event, that same posture do not exist. It just doesn't. I almost didn't even want to even be on Twitter. I just did it for the sake of coverage. But that live experience, everybody's happy. Everybody's happy, even if it didn't go the way you didn't want it to go. Even matches that may not have had the most momentum. I mean, hell, weren't people talking about Rhea and Charlotte not having no build? Just for everybody to say that was the best match of the week.
Tore the house down. Tore the house down.
So I'm just saying that live experience is something special there. And I think that's all that matters, is that while there was folks on two different sides, I think that ultimately the tribal chief and the bloodline and their supporters, everybody was there in full flag, throwing up the ones. Might have been silent. There definitely was some cheers, but at the end of the day, folks were just walking around proving it like, hey, that's all you need to know right there. That's it. And then the Cody fans are just like, okay, what's next for him? Optimistic, a little disappointed right now, but optimistic on what's possibly can come. So, yeah, I'm not upset at all. It's more story to be told, and as people that love long-term storytelling, well, let's sit back for the ride. Let's see what they got. Let's see what WWE got, folks.
So Cody's not ruined, is what you're saying.
Not at all. Not at all. The internet wants to ruin him, but the live fans, no. Yeah,
they do. I've heard it so many times this week. He is ruined. He's never going to get a chance like this again. There's no coming back from this. He's been lugered. It's all over for Cody Rhodes. It's all over for him.
Luger, I swear. Jeez.
Yeah, people bringing up Luger not beating Yokozuna. People throwing that around like it's, oh my God. Yeah, it's
not,
something else.
Yeah, not like that documentary came out and explained what really happened behind that, by the way, too. Like, it's not even the same at all.
So last week when you were traveling to WrestleMania and we were here doing the show, when it was me, Damian, and Celis last week, I talked about how one of the best parts of the main event, I thought, was going to be that it was truly a match that could go either way. There was no clear winner. There were stories to tell, whether Cody won the belt or whether Roman Reigns won the belt. And also depending how it would sync up with what happened with the Usos and Sami Zayn and KO the night before. I thought like there was 2 nights of stories to tell here, and no matter what happened on night 1, when it got time for that main event, it could go either way. So there was, by no means, when I was watching it, the entrances, the whole atmosphere, I thought it was off the charts. I thought Cody had all the momentum in the world coming out there. I was like, oh my God, this feels like it should be Cody. It feels like it should be Cody, but the whole time in my head, in my heart, I'm thinking Cody Rhodes. In my head, it's like, don't ever bet against the tribal chief. Don't ever bet against the tribal chief with all his guys out there. So it was always there. And I think the longer the match went, it just got like, Roman Reigns, the longer the match goes, I kept thinking 1,000 days, like you were saying, there's lots of story to tell here. And also the factor, like, if the bloodline loses both sets of belts on the weekend, it's like, then what do you do with them? There's a lot more you can do with, you have the Usos lose, but Roman's still champ. The bloodline has not completely fallen. They've taken a major blow, but they have not completely fallen. How they did it with the interference, it's pretty simple. It's classic old school wrestling heel interference. Like, hey, he's a heel. He's bad. He's a bad guy. He's the tribal chief. It's what happens. I would just say it was a shocking moment when it happened, but very quickly it became for me, okay. Where does Cody go from here? Where do we take this tomorrow night? And one other thing I was going to say was, as I saw videos surface online of people in the building, the big thing that got me was, in that moment, there weren't boos.
No.
It was a lot of, like, if anything, there was audible cheering. It was like, people were not like, it's not like that finish happened and people were just like, oh, hell no. There was a lot of, I think, like a combination of shock, but also the Roman Reigns fans being like, that's right. That's our tribal chief, It
is very much the same as, shall I say, the sort of the overall in tone when the streak was broken. I don't think, and I don't recall, I wasn't there, but I don't recall anybody ever saying that Brock was booed, but I think people were so shocked.
They were shocked into silence.
Yeah, like, what does this mean? Yeah, like, and I think it was the same thing. There was shock and silence. See, the one thing now that's different is that, folks understand that there's this element of social media, a component of social media that's potentially valuable for whatever folks' plan is, and that's going viral. So, like, people at times tend to over exaggerate certain situations in order to get themselves over, like the dude in the crowd. I know you know what video I'm talking about here, and dude throwing a temper tantrum. I know exactly where he was sitting. He was sitting that was like row 116. So he's like somewhere a little bit down, like 114, maybe 112. I'm sorry, 126. So 124, something around there. I know where he was sitting. But I mean, like, you do that because, I mean, and granted, some fans could be that passionate, but ultimately, it wasn't that serious. It wasn't that serious. The one thing about wrestling, as I try to explain to folks who has no clue why grown folks still watch wrestling, is like, you watch reality TV. I'm sure you do it to some extent, even shows that you didn't realize was a reality show is. But like, you like combat sports. Okay, put the two together and realize that this is something you can invest in that will never end. This has been going on for years, which means that you have confidence that this show is never going to get canceled. So you can invest into it long term and just ride out the fun. It's it. It's it. It never ends. For all the folks who want the 8-hour Avatar cut, guess what? WWE got the $1 billion cut programming that can go forever. And I think that, like, you have to at some point have a little bit of level of intelligence to realize, like, okay, this didn't go the way I wanted. If you're sitting out here personally invested, or do you want to just predict everything, knowing that there's a story that's going to be told tomorrow, another page in the book, another chapter to come, and so on. So, like, I instantly said the same thing. And again, conversing with Alex, it's kind of was like, okay, I can't believe that happened. So what's next? I'm just like, I don't know yet. I really don't know what you do with Cody yet, but I know they're going to do something. It's not over. Cody's not like cut from the team. It's like going to free agency. He's like, no.
It's the first loss he's had in WWE, since he was out all that darn time.
Yeah.
It's not over for him. Where he goes from here, we got our little taste of everything with Brock Lesnar on Monday, but I saw a few people, bring up the idea of, like, the only adversity he had faced was the injury, and that was it. And that wasn't injury, planned. Of course, it took him off TV. So on TV, he has not had adversity on TV, as part of his storyline since returning. So
and honestly, I mean, there's a lot of good things they can do with him after I seen the Brock situation. I mean, first of all, let's give a quick nod to Solo again. Look at the juggernauts that's in that ring, and Solo's right there. This is why
he's totally in the mix.
Absolutely. And this is why Roman winning only benefits the folks around him. We love Solo, but you can easily say, well, he's an enforcer, which is pretty close to being the manager, which means that, like, once the champion's gone, then so is the manager, essentially. But this keeps him strong. This gives him a little bit of direction. And this also keeps the fans optimistic on, like, hey, what can we do? What do you want to do with him? So, like, the last thing I will say is that the hard times era is what I think is coming, where we're going to see the adversity with Cody. And when you want to talk about him being the American Nightmare, and obviously his rendition of American Dream, well, let's talk about the American Dream. What's more American than showing resilience to get beat down, to get back up? That's the story you always can get behind. That's why people like Drew McIntyre, because no one liked him in 3MB. But he went out on the indies, rebranded himself, came back with a monstrous physique, told his story. You're like, shit, I like that. And he's still over. He's still one of the most over folks, which is so mind-blowing. And again, it should be Jinder Mahal too, but we won't talk about that because he did the exact same thing. just for just so you know. But it's gonna be interesting to see Cody Rhodes. And the last thing I want to say, while we're just fantasy booking, we did hear that Seth Rollins acknowledged that Cody and him had some backstage, and that came off the strength of, like, Seth feeling like he should be in that position. How did this new shiny toy come in here and steal all the hard work that Seth has been doing in all this time, and he should be in championship picture? Hey, you bring that to the forefront, you make that some programming there. That's an easy 3 to 4 months of more storytelling about who actually deserves to be in the top spot. Let them go exchange blows on that note. So, like, there's plenty of stuff for Cody to do, and Roman gets his 1,000 days, and then hopefully he'll get 1,000 days of rest. Not saying I want him to leave, but he deserves an absolute rest for completely carrying the company for all this time.
No doubt. So we got the main event out of the way. So let's shift gears here. Bigger picture, because of course this was a 2-night show. So No need to go into every damn last damn detail, but let's knock out the greatest hits, our favorite WrestleMania moments
Yes, sir.
between the two nights. And since we got the two of us here, I think we can hit each night separately. So night one, it's a toss up for me between Ray and Dominic. Everything about that damn match, from the intros to the telenovela family drama around ringside to just the match itself. I thought they just hit a damn home run with that match in every possible way. Classic, just sports entertainment, pro wrestling ridiculousness with the mom and the sister and the entrances and Snoop Dogg. Like, it could not have. I don't think that match could have been any better. There's nothing I can take away from it or add to it in any possible way. I thought that was just perfect.
Just glorifying going to jail to get a WrestleMania match. You know, that's the way to go here.
Hey, you do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. You're entirely right. And Ray is having a MVP month. It should be noted. As I got my Captain Crunch Ray Mysterio box back here. Ray's hitting on all cylinders. I quickly will say, for 30 seconds, really quick, the match of the weekend for me is bangers.
Oh, hell yes.
Listen. I expected nothing less, and God, man, it's even hard to put into words how damn good that match is. Masterclass. And listen, Gunther winning is also, I feel like, a direct effect of Cody also losing, because Gunther loses, Cody wins. You have to put him right in that picture right away. Right away. But Gunther staying put keeps him very much relevant in that space, and still have a lot of other folks that you can run this match back again for all intents and purposes here. But bangers, man. And man, if you saw the after effects of that, hey, you still out here thinking wrestling ain't real?
I tell you, I turned the sound up loud on that one to hear all those damn hits. We had everybody talking here about, like, they ain't using no chairs, they ain't using no weapons. That is just man beating on other damn man with fists. That is just pure violence.
Bangers. Yep. Pure violence.
For night two, that was my favorite match by far, the Intercontinental title. No doubt. Can't, of course, overlook Sammy and KO and the Usos. That was everything it should have been. And like you were saying earlier, with the idea that, you know, Cody didn't get, you know, the Cinderella story ending. He didn't get the super, you know, the storybook ending on night two. On night one, you did get the storybook ending on night one. And I think that might have been part of what they were looking at, is the idea that if we do the happy ending both nights, then what's left? We're giving it to you on night one. We're giving you the big finale with KO and Sammy, and you're going to get the hug and them overcoming the odds and everything. And if you just run that back on night two with Cody, then what's left? You know, you totally tear down the bloodline. You got to move on to other stuff, I guess. But KO and Sammy and the Usos, they put on a damn show. That was a hell of a, you know, of course we were worried if it was going to close the show. It totally did. It got its rightful spot. It got time. It got the finish that we were all hoping for. That was such a good damn match. It just, I don't know, that night of the two nights, night one is definitely a couple notches above night two in my mind. But yeah, that closing the show I thought was perfect.
Yeah, and I think because like anything, you know, with the first night, it's completely open to all wow. I mean, you haven't seen the atmosphere, you haven't seen the whole aesthetic, you haven't felt that energy. I mean, it's like a Red Bull. You get the juice. But night two, you got to come down a little bit, or maybe some people completely crash, but you're not going to be off that same high you were the first day. But if you take an equal playing field and play both of those cards side by side, I still do think night one, a slight edge, because there were some amazing things on night two. Bianca Belair's entrance.
Yes. Best entrance of the weekend, probably.
I gave me tears. Like I was, and then obviously the main event, which clearly had everybody on their feet their entire time, and also had people silenced at the end. I mean, that's the reaction right there. It's But yeah, I think if you played them both side by side, I think night one edges it just a little bit, but night two completely solid. There's no fall off. You just have to just take away the fact that everything that night one got an advantage of, you obviously can't apply for night two, like what the set looks like, the rolling posters, which was amazing, and what surprises may happen and whatnot, like and Shane McMahon.
Oh, geez. Shane, what the hell were you thinking? Jumping around like that at that age. Yeah. No. So hey, all the credit in the world to Snoop Dogg for keeping that segment together and keeping it from going off the rails.
I was telling the story, and I want to read some of these comments real quick, but I was telling the story about the Mae Young Classic, and I said when Tegan Knox went down, Rhea Ripley came out, and obviously they were rumoring that Tegan Knox was going to win the Mae Young Classic, and Rhea Ripley came in, and this is when everything began for her. This is when she became the star, realizing that she was hurt and it was a legitimate injury, and she had to go in and also add insult to injury by stomping on her, by making it becoming a monster heel that she became. This was the switch of the gimmick and everything. I don't know what the first thing was, but maybe that was like the happy to be here gimmick. But this is when the brutality of Rhea Ripley started, at that very moment. And I think wrestlers or talent, anybody who has that instinctual moment to know when and how to improvise in the way they do, is the it factor. I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but if Snoop Dogg was like 30 years younger, I think we may have had something here, because that was a game changer saving moment. That segment does not look flawed at all. It literally looked like Snoop just had the cue and went and did his thing. What a professional. We don't deserve Snoop, man. We just don't. Let me read a couple of comments real quick too. Go ahead, Will.
Man, Snoop totally saved the day. That's for sure. Yeah. What Snoop can't do, no kidding. Hip hop pundit, bring it in right there. Snoop is that man. That man's magic. That segment could have stood still, and he kept it all together. No doubt about that.
Hey, are we going to WrestleMania 40 in Philly?
It ain't ever going to get closer for us. So if it's going to happen, a hop, skip, and a jump up the road is going to be the time for it to happen. Because we won't have to pay for no damn flights. That's my thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the only possibilities outside of being closer for us in the DC area is North Carolina could do something. But other than that, circle back to New York, which is kind of dangerous considering it could get cold. But Philly, this is definitely the closest we're going to get right now. There's a lot of new stadiums in the world, in the states that they're going to want to hit. They're going to want to do Allegiance for WrestleMania. They're going to want to do Atlanta for WrestleMania. They may even do Minnesota, since they got a new stadium. They may go back up to San Francisco. There's a lot of places they will want to hit before they decide to risk it on some of these older cold areas. Yeah, stiff mask for sure on bangers there. Anywho, appreciate y'all in the comments. Keep getting in there crazy. We'll make sure we read them off. Myron Kidd. Yeah, Cody should be fine with Vince in charge. Cody was a primary focus on Raw before Vince had to leave. I mean, either way. The
old fans who brought him back a year ago.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about Vince. We're going to talk about Vince in the second half. We're headed that direction. Got to get WrestleMania out of the way, and then we will talk all the Vince drama and the sky is falling. God, we're already most at halftime. So okay, real quick, any other WrestleMania thoughts before we go to halftime?
Overall, it's an entirely fantastic weekend. Stand and Deliver should absolutely get his praise. The North American Championship match was a banger that I don't think enough people are talking about. But overall, I mean, Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker getting in there, tearing it up. NXT was dope. The Hall of Fame, listen, we don't really have to put the Hall of Fame over, but Conan did the job for them. Because what a fantastic introduction for the inductee of Rey Mysterio, telling the story, bringing the energy and whatnot. But overall, entire fantastic weekend of programming from WWE. Just to get into a two-night event of WrestleMania that both nights had people very sports entertained.
No doubt. Sports entertainment from top to bottom. I said before, I think night one was a complete home run. Night two probably was a triple. It was damn close. Good stuff in there. It just, night one, I think, is always going to be a little bit more exciting because everything's fresh and new, like you were saying. It's just, it is what it is. And then I think people knocking down night two, it's just they had an issue with that way that main event finished, and they can't get over that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It is what it is. The story continues on, and we'll get into that in the second half. So after our break, we got stuff to talk about. We got to talk about Monday morning when a business deal was announced and the new world that is possibly coming to us very soon. People thinking the sky is falling and all kinds of stuff like that, because Endeavor appears to be looking to buy the WWE, and changes are afoot. Or are they? We'll see. People seem to think they know everything that's going on with this, but I'm not quite so convinced about that. So back in 1 minute, your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast is here, and we will be back in just a sec.
Are you a fan of all things media? Are you a fan of professional wrestling and sports? Then you need to check out Big Gold Belt Media. We're the ultimate destination for all things entertainment and media, with the latest news, interviews, and analysis from the world of the aforementioned entertainment realm. Our team of dedicated journalists and analysts will bring you exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. And we're not just an online destination. We attend live events, conventions, bringing you behind-the-scenes access and exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, you can show your support for our brand by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/BigGoldBelt. Join the Big Gold Belt Media community today and stay ahead of the game. Follow all our social media platforms at Big Gold Belt for the latest updates and exclusive content. Whether you're a diehard wrestling, sports, nerd culture fan, or just a casual like some people, Big Gold Belt Media has everything you're going to need to stay informed and entertained. So what are you waiting for? Check us out today at BigGoldBelt.com. That's BigGoldBelt.com.
Welcome back, folks. Season 3, Episode 10, your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Talking everything WrestleMania in the first half, and it wouldn't be this week of wrestling in the wrestling business without, there's always drama this week. It's the biggest week of the year. And in some ways, I guess, the news we're about to talk about in so many ways, it feels to me like, when I think about it, it's like, this is kind of some of the biggest news of all time, that this actually is happening. So before Showtime Sunday, the rumors started to swirl that, the talk of a sale that we've been hearing forever might be done. The deal might be made. And the talk was that Endeavor, who currently owns UFC and has for some time, was going to be the landing spot. That they had made the offer, and the price that WWE's been looking to get, the billions they were after, were coming through, and the deal was done. That was the rumor. Show happens. Nick Hausman at the press conference afterwards even proposed the question, asked Triple H, asked Roman Reigns, asked Paul Heyman, asked it 2 times, and they all, we don't know what you're talking about. No comment on that. I like that he asked, though, that he had it in him to ask. So props to Nick Hausman for asking.
Yeah, Nick is my guy, man. That's all I'm gonna say. And check out House of Wrestling, his new outlet. He is venturing out, doing his own, stepping away from Wrestling Inc. And he said, listen, if I'm going to bet on myself, I'm going to get those big stories, okay?
And they come no bigger. So he asked the question that people were wondering at the darn press conference. So that was awesome. Nothing was said, though. The next morning, I wake up and I see it already on the damn timeline. I guess it was time to release 7 a.m. The announcement from Endeavor. It's happening. They're going to take WWE and UFC and spin them off into their own new company underneath the Endeavor umbrella. There was a big, huge appearance by Vince and Ari Emanuel of Endeavor on CNBC that morning. And essentially the long and short of it, without getting into too many details, is the deal has been agreed upon. It will be closed later this year, assuming there's no, hitches that come up along the way, which are always a possibility. You never know. Things can fall apart. It is by no means a done deal, but terms have been agreed upon. They're going to give that man $9.3 million to that company. It is crazy. Crazy money. $9.3 billion, a mustache, and he gets to keep executive position. So you make a deal with the devil, I swear the devil gets everything he wants and then some.
Listen, you know what's funny? It should have been foreshadowing because Linda McMahon was at WrestleMania, and I haven't seen Linda near wrestling in a long time. So I was like, oh
Right.
yeah, something's odd happening here. So guess she wanted to make sure that the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted here.
Yeah. So all that happened, a crazy Monday that then flowed into the Raw after Mania that most everyone out there seems to be very disappointed by the Raw after Mania. Wind let out of their sails, lack of sizzle, lack of surprises. Really the big thing that happened was the Brock and Cody deal. But the big story coming out of Raw after Mania was that the old man is got his hands on things again. He was running the show and all this because now that the new ownership has him in charge, it's all over for Triple H. The sky is falling. It's gloom and doom. And folks, Saturday night, it was people talking about an amazing show. Sunday, okay, people don't think it's quite as amazing. Some people don't like the main event, but still, lots of good stuff. Suddenly, Monday, everything's ruined. Everything's ruined. Everything's ruined from this announcement. Oh my God. This has been a hell of a week for just like reactions and people being crazy. But as I'm terming it, if you go online, people are going to tell you the sky is falling, that it is all over. Yeah. Vince has his hands all over everything. Triple H may as well pack his bag and head out to go spring break somewhere because it's all over for him. And if you were having a good time watching WWE for the past 6 months, it's all over. All because Raw wasn't good after Mania, so it's all over now. I guess jump in here because this has just been. I've been shaking my head all week because I'm like, God damn. One show, just like, and we got to throw everything out because that's how people are acting here. Like one show, and it's all been ruined. They burnt the pizza. It's all over.
That's a good one. They burnt the pizza. I actually, I will say this. I went back home Friday, so Raw was like I actually always wanted to do a Raw after Mania. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't disappointed because it wasn't anything that I wanted to be there for. And honestly, it wasn't really anything about the storyline. I really wanted to just kind of feel that shocking energy that happens from that surprise or unbelievable moment and whatnot. Which a lot of those moments came when Vince was at the head of the table here.
Oh, yeah. It's been years since we've really had a loaded up Raw after Mania in a lot of ways. When you really think of the last couple of years, it hasn't been as nuts as it used to be with 4 or 5 NXT call-ups and people returning and stuff like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm just gonna say this is just an overreaction. I don't think Raw was good, but I just don't think it was reason to burn an entire house down and and throw a hissy fit. I just think that just wasn't good. And I said, okay, on to next week. But again, I really, beyond that shocking factor, I was like, okay, what's next for Cody? And when Cody said he had to show up, I was like, okay, well, let's see what that's about. And again, I think Cody is getting ready to do this hard times era. He has to get beat down a lot to show the resilience to get back up. And that should be interesting going forward. And putting him next to Brock and that even shocking moment, shall I say, of Brock turning on him, I didn't mind it. But whatever it is that folks feel, here's the thing. It's like Vince is like an easy target for everything. And it ain't good, it's Vince's fault.
Absolutely.
It's Vince's fault. So
sometimes
it's just over exaggerated at times. And honestly, I don't really care who is actually running. It's just the show is the show. And before we all knew it all, we weren't mad about Vince doing all this goodness back then. Now all of a sudden, everybody know everything. And as soon as it ain't something they like, Vince fault. And so
anything that's good. Oh, that's Triple H. That was Triple H. Can't be something bad on the show and have it be Triple H's fault. Karrion Kross, the Bray Wyatt months of talking and stuff. I mean, let's not look at the past 6 months with rose-colored glasses. There have been duds in there. No one is going to bat 100% and hit home runs all the time, no matter who they are.
Right. Let me give a shout out to my Brody over at Just My Opinion Reviews, my homie, B. Avery. Y'all go check him out. You love movies, you like everything I like here at the channel. Obviously, you got to go there and check him out as well, too. Breaking down movies weekly movie news or entertainment news, got all that good stuff there, and trailer reactions and so on. So go check my man out here. But yeah, I'm not blaming Vince for this stuff, man. If it's a bad show, it's a bad show. I don't care who's behind it. It's just at the end of the day, it just wasn't a good Raw. On to next week, it's not always going to be good. Hell, every Marvel movie ain't good.
And here's the thing: if that news hadn't broken on Monday about the sale, people wouldn't be, I think, jumping all over. Oh, it was Vince. It's the new ownership. It's ruining it. Everything's gonna go downhill now because Vince is back in power. I mean, what would people have been saying if it had that same show, but no Vince involved? It would have been I guess the rumor of him being involved, but would people have been like, oh, what the hell is Triple H doing tonight? No, people have been all, up on that. It's such an over the top quick reaction to one show. My immediate feeling was this. Okay, that wasn't a good show. It definitely wasn't hitting on all cylinders. We got SmackDown tomorrow night. Let's see what happens on SmackDown.
Yeah, I tell you what.
If anything, my thinking is this. I want to see where we are in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, in 2 weeks from now, is he showing up at every show? Is he that hands-on again? If he's actually doing that, showing up at everything 2 weeks from now, then it's like, okay, now there's some reason to be concerned because it's like, okay, maybe we are heading in a different direction. But even then, what the hell am I going to do about it? It's the landscape is going to change behind the scenes there.
Yeah,
that's the thing. The people got to get ready for this. People do have to get ready for this because when Endeavor bought UFC, they buy in the place. They looking to run things the way they run them. This is the first time in a long time where it's going to be like, we're going to see like other people involved that aren't wrestling people that are going to be like, nah, we want this done like this. There's actually other people who are going to be holding the purse strings now. It's going to be a different dynamic going forward. Once this all goes through. That's the other thing. We gotta remember, right now, nothing's happened yet. The sale is agreed to. It's not like, okay, damn it, everyone knew is, showing up now. That's going to be late this year we're looking at the earliest for that kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah, let me read this comment real quick. I don't think the product radically changed between Vince and Triple H. Subjective. There's definitely been notable changes with Triple H, but I think it was much like a car scent, makes your car feel brand new for a moment, but it still becomes the same car you had afterwards. And yeah, people absolutely, people be taking it personal with Vince, man.
Yep. But anything they don't like, it's his fault.
Yeah, he gets over every time his music drops, though. You can believe that. And by the way, you're talking about SmackDown. Everyone's reacting to like, what's Triple H going to talk about? It's going to do the exact same thing he did on Monday. And to me, this is like it's their new season. While it's not the season, or is it the season premiere? I'm not sure. But in WWE season, this is the season premiere. So you need to come out on both shows and establish something. Hey, we're not going anywhere. Also, don't forget, in order to watch Raw, you need cable. In order to watch SmackDown, you don't. It's two different audiences here. They are also been booked like two different audiences, where SmackDown at a point did feel like a legitimate sports brand. Raw went to become the entertainment brand. I feel like it flopped a couple of times, but still, two different audiences I feel like I cater to. Which also brings me to your thought, Will, in terms of Endeavor. I think at a point they will take a look at it and say, how can we make this more of a sports brand, advertisement, product placement, which Vince has been masterful at, which I'm sure they're going to be like.
Look at WrestleMania. Nick Khan had almost every damn match like sponsored by something.
Captain Crunch,
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Turbo Tax,
Cinnamon Toast
name
Crunch,
it. They were nailing. They had every darn match with something, and that's where I think we're headed. And hell, with those LED boards, it makes it easy. You can just throw up a graphic. You got Logan Paul out there with his prime. It's like that is going to be where we're headed with just everything's going to have. This match brought to you by such and such.
Snickers. Snickers in the mix. Hey, I've been tweeting this, but I don't think it got enough love because people don't love us. It's all good, but TurboTax was so over that no one's talking about it. When the TurboTax commercials was running, the TurboTax chants were going nuts. And I laughed for a bit. I swear to God, I swear. And it was so funny because it's an easy chant, TurboTax. Which you like, okay, fine. All the wrestling folks doing wrestling thing. But then I thought about it like, nah, people really do fuck with TurboTax. That's how the fuck everybody got here. They filed their taxes, got their money. It was like, I'm going to WrestleMania. I'm buying that belt this year. Now that I got all this money back, I'm buying that belt, and I'll probably get a Money in the Bank briefcase. Hell yeah, TurboTax. Thank you.
The WrestleMania Superstore got hooked up with some refunds while people were there.
Damn right. Hey, listen. As a responsible adult, the way how people were chinging it in that job, I was like, man, listen. You tell me your secrets, because like, man, people were just like, man, I'll get this. I don't even care. And as a person who don't like to hold things, the fact that people were buying so much stuff that they can barely hold it was like giving me the ick. I'm like, what are y'all doing? But
you got to carry that around all damn night.
All damn night.
Oh no, that's too damn much. Too damn much. But I think that's the big thing. The sale agreement just sent people into a tailspin, and it's like, pump the brakes. This is a deal that's got to be worked out. They got to figure out what the hell they're doing. The only thing I see drastically changing probably when things first go down is they're going to look at that office. They're going to be like, okay, there's a lot of positions between these two places that we can probably, streamline and have different divisions doing the same thing. Do you need like two different, promotions divisions for each side, or, two as huge staffs? Maybe you need 1.5 or something. Do you really need, with the business models being so similar, as huge a thing as it could possibly be? Because the whole idea is, they were talking about the thing. It's going to be all about the synergy of, UFC and WWE and the businesses being similar and using that to take everything to the next level. So I'm sure they're going to be like, okay, look, we got all these people doing this. We got all these people doing this. Our people over here do this way. We like how this is done, so maybe we want it handled like that from now on. I mean, there's lots of stuff that's, that's above our pay grade, and that's behind the scenes stuff. But that's where I figured that's where stuff's going to change first. It's going to be that kind of stuff behind the nuts and bolts of things.
And like, I could be completely talking out of my ass here, but if I'm not mistaken, McDonald's and Chipotle are owned under the same entity, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
There's nothing similar about them.
No.
Not how they run commercials, not how they advertise, not anything. You can easily kind of equate that to like, well, if they're under the same umbrella, then there should be similarities to it. We're not talking about like checkers and rallies here, because that's, but I think that, I think the business of things is going to change, things that's way out of our pay grade, way out of our interest, the business back aspects. I absolutely feel like the investors, the advertisement sponsors, all that other stuff is going to change. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when Endeavor came into the UFC, but the UFC went from, everybody go out there and get your own sponsorship, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, by the way, we're about to ink this Reebok deal.
Right. Everyone's stuck with it. Yeah.
Everybody stuck with it, which was a method to get fighters paid more. Even though they're still not getting paid enough, which now some people are starting to get paid. And I think it's just going to be measures in terms of like, folks may look over at how folks are doing things, but I absolutely don't think there's going to be a means of like, oh, we need to be WWE, or they need to be all together. They need to be a transitional point from one to the next. It's not going to be anything like that. I think if anything, we're just going to see more folks being hooked up to go to each other's shows. Like, I can imagine as a wrestler, you're going to be like, and the MVP, who I got to speak to, who's a huge UFC fan, if you didn't know, I'm sure he's going to eat this all up. He's going to be like, I'm never paying for a UFC ticket again. Like, we under the same umbrella here. You know what I mean? I'm coming through all day, all night. And there will be folks saying, I want to go see wrestling. With these people got kids. So they're like, oh, yeah, I can
come on now. And come on now. The first thing that jumped out at me is how many of these our fighters are going to be winding down their careers and immediately thinking of stuff like, hey, now I can transition over into WWE and not have to do like a whole damn, how is that gonna be built into people's contracts going forward? That, hey, if you want to do that after 3 years or so, you transition over. We can make that happen, because now it's not a matter of having to work out a whole new deal, being it's all under the same damn umbrella. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, and I think that's the big thing. On this side, the first thing we're going to see, it's going to be business stuff. They're not going to be coming in there and being like, okay, we got to Cody Rhodes, he ain't going to be champion. Roman Reigns, he isn't going to do this. We're going to get rid of Triple H running the show. It's like that kind of detail. They ain't going to be I don't see them sweating that kind of stuff. It's much bigger behind the scenes business stuff that they're going to be thinking of. And if anything, the folks worrying about Vince being too involved and all that kind of stuff, I'm looking at it like this. Vince is going to have a boss now for the first time in ever. Vince is going to have bigger things to worry about than week-to-week TV when all this goes through. It's going to be about business. It's not going to be about what's happening at 9:30 on Raw every damn week that he's going to be worrying about. It's going to be interesting. So
yeah,
enough of that, I think, on that part. Anything else you want to say?
No, just read a couple of comments. Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram are the same, brother. So listen, WhatsApp and Facebook both have, and which when you say Facebook, you can also say Messenger, which are both communication aspects of it. They're different, nor do they have to be the same thing. CNN, Cartoon Network, at times they're the same.
Hell, everything under Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and then book it. Dana White versus Pat McAfee, the match that no one needed, but here we are. And I will say this too. You talk about Vince, like Vince is old. Vince is not going to be wanting to go to every show anymore.
77.
A man just made $9.3 billion.
Billion.
He's going to sit his ass home at some point. At some point, you're promoted so high in your rankings, you don't have to fight the war anymore. So it's Vince. I mean, and think about it. Was Vince in LA? Yeah. Did he run? Could he possibly have ran Raw? Sure. Because if he goes anywhere near Raw, which he will, everyone's going to instantly cater towards him. They're going to be like, oh, Vince is here. Let's see what he got to say. He's going to have something to say.
The first thing that jumped out at me is like, he's at the Raw that happened on literally the biggest day of his business life. Of course he's going to do some shit that day. Of course he's going to want to be involved with some stuff. He literally had one of the biggest announcements of his entire career happen that morning, coming off of their biggest show of the year. He was going to be involved in some way.
This is the message. This is the Vince retirement pack. Vince and Linda, by the way.
There you go.
She may really get all the way out of politics now, because I mean, cash out here.
Shoot. This is going to be her payment for another run at something.
Could be.
This influx of cash is going to be. And
the old man might get itchy. I mean, if you got people, you got tyrants like DeSantis going crazy. Who's I could imagine Texas wanting a celebrity. I just want to quickly say that Cody Rhodes reported by Fightful that Cody Rhodes outsold everybody in merch. Oh, he's gonna be good.
Wow.
He's gonna be good. You know that's all that matters.
He's safe. He's safe.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. All right, so let's switch gears for our final segment as we go into the home stretch here. The other big announcement in wrestling this week, last night from AEW, Tony Khan. I was figuring we'd heard rumblings for a long time. UK show was coming. UK show's coming.
Saturday
UK
show.
Day. Right, something. So yeah, the UK show's coming. It's going to happen the end of August. The twist we didn't see coming was AEW All In at Wembley Stadium. That was the twist that we did not see coming. So Wembley Stadium, where SummerSlam 92 happened, a 90,000 plus venue, gigantic venue in London. So the surprise to me is just like, okay, there's been talk about y'all doing a stadium show at some point to test the waters on that, since the biggest thing they've done is Arthur Ashe in New York with 20,000. I always kind of figured, okay, maybe like a 40,000 venue or a 50,000 venue, but like, okay, we aiming big. We going as big as we can go, but we're doing it with the overseas deal. So Wembley, the end of August. Initial reaction, I was kind of like, well, goddamn. And then the more I think about it, it's like, well, okay, first time in the country, first time, in Europe. So they're probably going with the idea that, okay, people could travel from all over Europe, come to this. It's going to be the end of the summer. So, make a big event out of it. If you're going to test the waters of a stadium show, might as well do it first time in the country, because you're never going to be as hot as the first time you come in. And then the part I think people are missing is I think people are immediately focused on that damn, 90,000 seat deal.
Read the comment, Will. Read the
I
comment.
know, pray it don't rain. Ain't no roof on Wembley, that's for sure. The thing that jumped out at me was like, okay, just because it's a 90,000 seat venue, don't mean you need to have 90,000 people in it. We've seen how Royal Rumble's done, how SummerSlam's been being done.
Yeah, 60.
Exactly. 50,000, 40,000 or whatever. You configure the place in a way to where the part you're not using, you can't see, and it's all good. Hell, now, of course, I'm sure they would love to have 90,000 and set a huge damn record. That might be a big pie in the sky dream that good luck to you if you can pull that off. But by no means, if that place is a third full and there's 30,000 people there, that is no less of a success. That is a home run for them, because it will be their biggest crowd. So I think that's the part people are going to get lost on, is like, if it only ends up being a crowd that size, you're like, look, they couldn't even get like the place halfway full. And it's like, it's the biggest crowd they've ever had. That's still a mammoth amount of people first time in the country. That's my thoughts. What do you think about this whole deal?
Yeah, welcome back, All In, which was a revolutionary pay-per-view, as he properly alluded to, was done by the Bucks. He mentioned Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega, and Tony didn't have a stake in that then, but this absolutely was the four of them, the elite, should we say, at the time, proving that they can do this. It went from a gamble online to them doing it. So like to kind of reflect back 5 years to become everything that it is now, I think this is really an interesting pay of respect to them. So I'll just say that, because I've been waiting for All In. Now that Tony Khan inquired ROH, you start to think like, well, what is he going to do and how he's going to do it? But if you deprive the entire nation of not getting AEW, of course they're going to show up and show out, because, well, this may be their first and only time for a very long time to see it. So it's a risky gamble, which I think does allude to the moniker of All In.
Right.
So I like that. And why not do Wembley? I mean, Wembley, they've been doing what's his name in New York? Fits the mold
Arthur
here.
Ashe.
Yeah, Arthur Ashe. So I'm cool with this. And I think they will absolutely sell a hell of a lot of tickets. I think they will do their tier thing where we notice that they'll be like, oh, we sold out, because Tony loves numbers. So they'll be like, oh, we sold out. Oh, additional tickets are available. So I think they will
exactly
do.
You scale it.
Yeah, you scale it.
Start at one level, you add some more, be like, okay, we
Mhm.
got this many, we got to this many, and you see how far you can push it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the UK fans have been, as mentioned right here by Myron Kidd, they have been begging for a big show for a while. So it makes sense. And granted, I don't know who it is, but somebody on the media call always asks us, when are you coming to UK, Tony? When are you coming to UK? So finally,
don't forget, they've been on TV there since the jump. So they've been on TV there since the show launched. So the UK is starving for an AEW show. So the crowd is going to be hot no matter where they ran.
Hot.
The only surprise is that they're like, okay, let's do the biggest damn spot we can possibly do.
Yeah, AEW doesn't spend much on their production, so I don't see them more than 75. I mean, either way, I think they're going to tear. I think you start 50, release an additional 10K, and see what they can get to. See how they'll knock those 50 out in no time, especially with the folks who be reselling tickets. But I think there will still be a demand for the extra 10, and then just do what they do. I think the only other comment I want to say is, and by the way, of our team, Jamal, who is our AEW correspondent. I mean, he wasted no time to say, man, he booking his flight. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool. When you get a destinational place for wrestling, then I've never been to the UK. Sure as hell never been to Wembley. And in fact, if I went to the UK, I'm not even sure what that had been on my things to do. But this is definitely like a this is actually maybe worth it here. So, and yeah, and as this comment says, like pre-registration open soon, which is interesting. Pre-registration, what the hell is this? This ain't.
Yeah, I
like
said
Nike.
tickets are going on sale beginning of May. I think.
Yeah, what the hell is
Definitely May.
pre-registration? I guess this is like to avoid Ticketmaster shenanigans or whatnot. Maybe to get away from the bots or whatnot.
Well, would it be an international show? I mean, that might be something they got to take into account. Is we're selling tickets to an overseas event. This isn't a U.S. show, so
yeah.
Who knows?
But we'll see, man. Good for them. Obviously, the announcement was something that people thought was going to be the Saturday show or an announcement of somebody else, whatnot. But while this wasn't a big bang of an announcement that everybody thought it was going to be, All In returns, going to Wembley Stadium. This should be interesting, and definitely, happy for all the folks from the UK who get to wrestle in your backyard. There's been a lot of excitement about that, and we'll see how they put the card together.
There we go. All right, we are at our hour. We made it. I was wondering if we'd make it through everything between all the WrestleMania drama and all the business drama, but we pulled it off. Yeah. So, as always, Thursday nights, 8 p.m., your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast streams live right here between Twitter and Twitch and YouTube and all the different platforms. And then if you're looking for audio, we got you too. Audio version, the podcast drops the next day on all your favorite podcast platforms. In the meantime, when you're not listening or watching, BigGoldBelt.com. for all the news between wrestling and comics and movies and entertainment and all that. And, of course, at Big Gold Belt on all social media between Twitter and Instagram, and Facebook, all that good stuff. So we got you covered one way or another. But Thursday at 8 p.m., this is where we are. Hopefully we'll have more of the guys back next week. As we head into the new season, we'll see what happens on SmackDown next week. And we go from there. So that's that. So, all right, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Recover from your WrestleMania hangover, and we will see you next week.
All I really need, that